Today I want to talk to you about Botany Manor, one of the best Game Pass games that you can play right now on the service. As the name suggests, it's a game all about botany and flowers. Now, that might not immediately sound appealing to you because it didn't to me, as someone who has no great interest in botany. But this is a game that really has to be given a chance, and let me tell you why. While you watch the footage behind me, I'll explain. Botany Manor reminds me a lot of The Witness. You start the game in a greenhouse. It's set in the Victorian period of the 1800s. You don't really know what character you are or kind of why you're there. You're just in a manor that has lots of botany around, hence the name. But you very quickly start to find out that there's a lot of puzzles involved. Of course, botany-based puzzles, so flowers and seeds and all of that kind of thing. And along the way, you start to kind of piece together the story, and that's why it reminds me of The Witness. Also, the art style is very much like The Witness. Now, where The Witness was started to get extremely difficult as well, Botany Manor does get very difficult indeed. The reason I say it's like The Witness is the way it delivers its storytelling. As I mentioned, it doesn't really tell you who you are, but you start to piece it together as you go, just like this letter here. As you progress through this manor, there are some Metroidvania aspects to it where you can't just unlock all of the doors immediately. You have to complete the puzzles in order to kind of backtrack and unlock doors and certain things. And as you see here, this is an example of how the storytelling and the world building filters into puzzles, because you'll find books like this along the way. And you really actually need to read them. As you see this one, it's giving facts about pyrophiles, which are pyrophile means fire-loving. So it's obviously a fire-loving plant. And so that plays into how you solve the puzzle. And then, there's multiple puzzles to be solved at once. And then there's lots of things like this train ticket that kind of add to the world. And you kind of piece together the story like this as well. And as I said, you'll complete a puzzle and then you'll backtrack a bit, and then you'll finally, gain the ability to unlock a door or a certain place. And again, this is an example of one of the puzzles here, is that you have to create a certain element with all of these chemicals. I won't spoil it. These puzzles are actually difficult. These puzzles are not easy. They start off easy, but they really ramp up to the point where you actually, can spend a good amount of time stuck. It's very old school like that, which, depending on your point of view, can be a good or a bad thing. But for me, it was certainly refreshing, because I think a lot of games are too easy these days. And I think the joy of this game is kind of piecing together who you are and where everyone else is, and kind of just, as you see here, you get the key to the back terrace, so therefore you can backtrack to the back terrace and open it and continue on. And the kind of story plays out like that. And you find bits and pieces around the world and that explain what's going on. And some of the most interesting things are that it is set in the Victorian period, and it talks a lot about sort of women's education. And so I won't spoil it, but, at the time, women weren't allowed to study botany in a professional sense and things like that. And you kind of start to piece all of this together, and things that you wouldn't think as a sort of modern player, you wouldn't think that would be a hindrance. And it's very, very interesting to kind of find that out. And, the way it's delivered through all of these notes, and instead of people talking to you, and it's kind of, it's peaceful while also being difficult. It's peaceful. It's a peaceful place to spend your time, and interesting to kind of pick your way through and piece it all together. But the puzzles are difficult, but it also ties into history. And there's a part where a kind of medieval priest has been hiding out in the manor, long dead, of course, not still. I mean, it's hundreds of years ago, but it's kind of like that layer upon layer of really interesting story. There's a part where you pick up a letter about, we've brought back some grey squirrels. And if you know anything, grey squirrels destroyed Europe when we brought them back from the New World, the Americas. They killed the red squirrel population. And now we just have grey squirrels. And so there's a lot more that kind of meets the eye with Botany Manor. It's not just a game about flowers, and that's what I kind of want to get across here, and hopefully you've kind of seen. As I just want to talk about how, you know, I saw the trailer. It kind of looked like a cozy, peaceful game, but I was like, I don't really know anything about botany. But luckily, because it was on Game Pass, I tried it, and I think it's one of the best indie games so far this year that you really shouldn't miss out on. And I think that you should give it a try too, even if you know nothing about flowers and botany, because it's kind of Botany Manor, the name and the kind of theme is a bit misleading because it's about so much more than, flowers and things like that. Like, there's just so much more to the game. And I can't really go into too much of that spoiling it, but I would say, you need to have Game Pass just as a gamer these days. And if you haven't played this, you should download it and play it right now. It's on Xbox and PC. It's only a few gig to download. It's definitely worth it because, it reminds you of games like, I've mentioned The Witness, but also Everybody's Gone to the Rapture. That sort of game where, you're kind of figuring it all out for yourself. And it's, people have called them walking simulators, but I would say this is not a walking simulator. This is more of a puzzle game because there's a lot more involvement, right? You're not just walking. It's not just like Firewatch, which also great game. But it's definitely worth checking out. So go to Game Pass, download Botany Manor. Let me know what you think. If you've played Botany Manor, let me know if you agree with me. If you found the puzzles too hard, because the puzzles are very difficult in places where you really have to piece things together and read to work out ingredients and weights and things like that. But yeah, report back. Leave me a comment and let me know how you get on with Botany Manor.